Welcome to the Personal Finance Podcast. Whew. It seems like everywhere you turn, these days, there's just this sense of dread about the economy,
Yeah.
Everything bubble bursts and runaway inflation, global instability. It's a lot.
It's enough to make you want to just kind of like crawl into a hole and
Yeah,
hide.
bury your head in the sand.
Yeah.
But that's why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to unpack some insights from, Robert Kiyosaki,
Oh, yeah.
the rich dad, poor dad guy,
Right.
to help make sense of this crazy financial landscape, and more importantly, figure out what you can do about it.
Yeah. And he definitely doesn't sugarcoat things, Kiyosaki believes we're on the verge of the biggest financial crash in our lifetime, what he calls the everything bubble.
Okay, so let's break that down. What exactly does he mean by everything bubble? I mean, it sounds kind of apocalyptic.
Well, he's basically saying that, we've seen these artificially inflated prices across almost every asset class. Housing, stocks, bonds, you name it.
Think about, remember a few years ago when used car prices were just, through the roof?
Oh, yeah, I definitely remember that.
That's a prime example.
Yeah, I was trying to buy a car at the time, and it was insane.
Yeah.
So Kiyosaki is saying, these inflated prices can't last forever, and when the bubble bursts,
Right.
it's going to be a doozy.
He sees it as a correction of historic proportions. But here's the thing. Kiyosaki isn't afraid of this crash. In fact, he's actually looking forward to it.
Yay, really?
Yeah.
Why would anyone be excited about a financial crash? That sounds a little counterintuitive.
He sees opportunity in the chaos.
Okay.
Think
yeah.
about it. When prices plummet, suddenly everything goes on sale.
Right.
And for someone like Kiyosaki, who's been preparing for this moment,
Yeah.
it's a chance to buy up valuable assets at a fraction of their previous cost.
It's all about being positioned for the downturn.
Right.
And taking advantage of the fire sale when it happens. Exactly. But Kiyosaki also believes that this crash is going to expose some fundamental flaws in our economic system.
Okay.
He's very critical of current leadership, both in the U.S. and globally.
Yeah, he's never been one to shy away from controversy. So what exactly does he point to as evidence of this weak leadership?
Well, he cites things like policies that have, fueled inflation, unsustainable levels of government debt and energy policies that he believes have made us more vulnerable. He sees these decisions as directly impacting the financial well-being of everyday people.
That's a pretty bold statement. It makes you wonder, do you agree with Kiyosaki's assessment of current leadership? And if so, how do you think it's affecting your own personal finances? It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it's certainly a complex issue with no easy answers. But one thing that's undeniable is the role of the Federal Reserve in all of this. They've been raising interest rates aggressively to try to tame inflation.
Which is the opposite of what they usually do during a recession, right?
Right.
It feels like they're trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
It's definitely an unusual situation, yeah. And Kiyosaki is extremely skeptical of the Fed's ability to control this,
Mm-hmm.
He famously says they can't just, print oil or print food to solve these supply chain issues and shortages.
Okay, so we've got this looming everything bubble, shaky leadership, and a Federal Reserve that seems to be making things up as they go along. I mean, that paints a pretty bleak picture, doesn't it?
It can feel that way, but this is where Kiyosaki's personal investment philosophy comes in.
Okay.
He has a very unconventional approach that goes against a lot of traditional financial advice.
Yeah, he's not a fan of the buy and hold mentality when it comes to traditional investments like stocks and bonds. He doesn't even own any.
Right. He's all about building wealth through assets that he can control. Primarily real estate, and he's a big believer in using debt strategically to leverage those assets.
Now, that might sound a little scary to some people, especially with interest rates as high as they are.
Mm-hmm.
But Kiyosaki has very specific strategies for using debt to his advantage. Things like refinancing and taking advantage of tax benefits associated with real estate investing.
Right.
It's important to remember that this is just one perspective, and it might not be the right fit for everyone. But Kiyosaki's success with this approach definitely makes it worth considering.
For sure.
Absolutely. It all comes down to your individual risk tolerance and financial goals. But what I find really fascinating is how how Kiyosaki ties his personal finance philosophy into this bigger picture of global trends and economic forces.
Yeah, he definitely sees the two as interconnected.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things he's warning about is the rise of what he calls stakeholder capitalism, pushed by organizations like the World Economic Forum or WEF.
Okay, so this is where things get a little controversial. I've heard a lot about the WF and their Great Reset agenda, but I'm still not entirely sure what it all means.
Well, the WEF, founded by Klaus Schwab, is this global organization that brings together leaders from business, government, and other sectors to discuss major, world issues. And one of their key initiatives is this idea of stakeholder capitalism.
So what does that actually mean in practice?
Essentially, it's the idea that businesses shouldn't just focus on maximizing profits for shareholders. They should also prioritize the interests of all stakeholders, including employees, customers, suppliers, the environment, and even society as a whole.
So it sounds kind of like corporate social responsibility on steroids.
Yeah, but Kiyosaki sees it as much more insidious than that. He believes it's a form of Marxism disguised as corporate do-goodery.
Whoa, Marxism. That's a pretty heavy accusation.
Yeah.
What makes him think that?
He believes it gives unelected elites too much control over the economy and ultimately diminishes individual freedom.
Hmm. That definitely aligns with his overall message about taking control of your own financial destiny.
Right.
He sees stakeholder capitalism as a threat to that freedom.
Exactly. And it ties into his concerns about other global trends like potential food shortages, energy crises, and the rise of central bank digital currencies or CBDCs.
Okay, so now we're getting into like really big picture stuff. Yeah. I have to admit the idea of like food shortages and digital currencies taking over sounds a bit like a dystopian novel.
It definitely can. But he's drawing attention to these trends because he believes they have the potential to dramatically impact our lives, including our personal finances.
He's basically saying that if you don't have control over your money, you don't have control over your life. And in a world where governments and institutions are increasingly exerting their power, that financial independence becomes even more crucial.
Exactly. He's drawing a parallel to Henry Kissinger's famous quote, "Control the food, control the people."
Right.
Kiyosaki believes that controlling money is just another way to control people.
So what does this all mean for us, the average folks just trying to navigate this increasingly complex world?
Well, that's what we're gonna dig into next. But Kiyosaki's overall message is one of empowerment. He believes that knowledge is power and that by understanding how money works, we can take control of our financial futures regardless of what the economy throws our way.
And that sounds like a great place to leave it for now. We'll be right back after a quick break to dive into some practical steps you can take to achieve that financial freedom that Kiyosaki talks about. Stay tuned.
Huh?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been, laying out Robert Kiyosaki's rather, shall we say, intense views on the state of the world and the economy. But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No.
He actually offers some really empowering advice on how to, take control of our financial destinies.
Absolutely. He's a firm believer that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And he stresses the importance of understanding like the basics of personal finance.
Okay.
Budgeting, saving, investing.
He's not exactly a fan of relying on those like traditional financial advisors, though, is he?
Not particularly, no. He encourages people to become their own financial experts, to do their own research and to really understand where their money's going and how it's working for them.
Which, can feel pretty daunting, especially if you don't have a finance background. I mean, where do you even begin?
Yeah. That's where Kiyosaki's rich dad philosophy comes in. He emphasizes the importance of building assets.
Okay.
Things that put money in your pocket, not take it out.
Yeah. So we're talking about things like real estate, businesses, maybe even intellectual property.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about shifting your mindset from being a consumer to being an owner.
Okay.
From working for money to having your money work for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about building a system where your wealth generates more wealth.
Right.
But how do you get started?
Well, Kiyosaki talks a lot about the power of leverage, using debt strategically to acquire those income-producing assets.
I bet that raises some eyebrows. I mean, most people think of debt as like a four-letter word, something to be avoided at all costs.
Right. But Kiyosaki distinguishes between good debt and bad debt.
Okay.
Good debt is used to acquire assets that generate income, like a rental property that brings in monthly rent. Bad debt is what you rack up buying, things that lose value, like that fancy new car that depreciates the minute you drive it off the lot.
So it's not about being debt-free. It's about being um, smart about how you use debt to your advantage.
Precisely. And this is where real estate comes in.
Mm.
Kiyosaki has built his entire fortune around real estate.
Yeah.
Right.
Using techniques like mortgages to acquire properties and then using the rental income to pay down that debt.
Right.
He also takes advantage of tax benefits that come with real estate investing.
So he's not just advocating for buying any old property. It's about strategic acquisition and leveraging the system to your benefit.
Right, and that's why education is so crucial.
Yeah.
You need to understand how these systems work.
Right.
Whether it's, the tax code or real estate markets or the intricacies of financing.
Yeah. He's a big proponent of financial literacy, not just understanding the mechanics of money,
Right.
but also developing the mindset of an investor, of an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. It's about seeing opportunities where others see obstacles,
Right.
taking calculated risks and being willing to challenge conventional wisdom.
Yeah. It's about thinking outside the box, which Kiyosaki definitely does.
Yeah. He's not afraid to go against the grain, even when it comes to things like protecting your assets.
Oh, you're right. He's very vocal about the importance of financial privacy, understanding tax laws, and legally minimizing your tax burden.
Okay.
He sees these as essential skills in today's world where governments and institutions are increasingly exerting control over our finances.
Yeah, it's about safeguarding your wealth from unnecessary taxes and fees, knowing your rights, and taking advantage of every legal means to protect what you've earned.
And this all ties back to Kiyosaki's core message,
Mm.
taking control. He encourages us to be proactive, to educate ourselves, and to make informed decisions about our money rather than simply handing over the reins to someone else.
It's about empowering ourselves to become financially independent and resilient regardless of what the future holds.
Exactly. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building long-term wealth and security for ourselves and our families.
So what are some actionable steps our listeners can take today to start moving in that direction? What's one small change they can make right now to start taking control of their finances?
Well, I think a great starting point is to simply assess where you stand.
Okay.
Take a look at your income, your expenses, your debts, and your assets.
Mm-hmm.
Get a clear picture of your current financial situation.
That sounds like a good first step.
From there, you can start setting some financial goals. Short-term, long-term. What do you want to achieve with your money? Do you want to pay off debts, save for a down payment on a house, start investing?
Yeah, having those goals in mind will help you stay focused and motivated as you start making changes.
Absolutely. And then it's all about taking action, Start small.
Okay.
Maybe it's creating a budget and tracking your expenses. Maybe it's setting up automatic savings contributions.
Or maybe it's picking up a book on personal finance or investing. I mean, there's so many resources available these days. It can be overwhelming.
That's true, yeah. But don't let that overwhelm you. Start with one small step and then keep building from there.
I think that's key. Don't try to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Focus on making consistent progress, even if it's just a little bit at a time.
Exactly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
There are people who can help you along the way.
Well, yeah.
Financial advisors, mentors, even online communities of like-minded individuals.
That's such an important point. Sometimes it helps to have someone to bounce ideas off of, to get feedback and to stay accountable.
Absolutely. And as you gain knowledge and experience, you'll start to feel more confident and empowered in your ability to manage your finances and make sound financial decisions.
It's about taking back control and creating a financial future that aligns with your values and goals.
And that's a powerful thing.
It really is. And that brings us to the heart of Kiyosaki's message, this idea that true freedom is linked to financial freedom.
Yeah, he believes that if you're not in control of your money, you're not truly free to live the life you want, to make the choices that are important to you.
Yeah, it's about having options and not being beholden to a job, a boss, or a system that doesn't serve you.
Right, and that's why he's so passionate about sharing his knowledge and encouraging people to take ownership of their financial futures.
Hmm. Because he truly believes that everyone has the potential to achieve financial freedom, regardless of their background or current
He
circumstances.
sees it as a fundamental right, not a privilege reserved for the wealthy few.
It's about leveling the playing field and giving everyone the tools they need to succeed.
And that's a message that resonates deeply with people from all walks of life.
It's a message of hope and empowerment, especially in times like these when so much feels uncertain and out of our control.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we have more power than we realize, and that by taking control of our finances, we can create a future that is truly ours.
And on that note, we'll be exploring some of the more controversial aspects of Kiyosaki's philosophy, his critiques of the World Economic Forum, and his warnings about potential threats to our financial freedom. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking Robert Kiyosaki's unique perspective on personal finance and the global economy, and things are about to get really interesting. Before the break, we hinted at some of his more controversial views, specifically his skepticism of the World Economic Forum and what he calls stakeholder capitalism. Yeah, this is where Kiyosaki really challenges conventional wisdom and encourages us to think critically about the systems that shape our world. You know, he sees stakeholder capitalism as kind of a Trojan horse, like this seemingly benign concept with potentially dangerous implications for individual freedom and economic prosperity.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't familiar with the intricacies of stakeholder capitalism, let's back up a bit. Remind us what this concept is all about and why Kiyosaki sees it as such a threat.
Yeah, so in essence, stakeholder capitalism proposes that businesses should prioritize the interests of all stakeholders, not just shareholders, in their decision making.
Okay.
This includes employees, customers, suppliers, the environment, and even broader societal concerns.
Right.
On the surface, it sounds like a noble goal, right? Like promoting corporate social responsibility and a more equitable distribution of wealth.
It sounds like the conscious capitalism movement that's been gaining traction in recent years.
Right.
But Kiyosaki clearly sees a darker side to this.
Right.
What's his take?
Well, he believes it's like a subtle form of wealth redistribution and control, kind of orchestrated by unelected elites who have their own agenda.
Okay.
He points to organizations like the World Economic Forum or WEF, which champion stakeholder capitalism as evidence of this shift in power.
Hmm.
He's particularly critical of Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, who has written extensively about the need for a great reset of global capitalism.
So instead of businesses being primarily accountable to their shareholders, the people who invest their money in the company, they're now supposed to be accountable to this much broader and more amorphous group of stakeholders. I can see how that could get messy.
Exactly, yeah. Who gets to decide what's in the best interest of all these stakeholders?
Right.
And what happens when those interests conflict?
Right.
Kiyosaki argues that stakeholder capitalism ultimately leads to a concentration of power in the hands of a select few, the very elites who are pushing this agenda.
He's basically saying that it's a form of corporatism where government and big business collude to control the economy and by extension our lives.
Right.
And he sees this as a slippery slope towards socialism or even communism. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is. And while not everyone agrees with his assessment, it's important to consider his perspective and the potential downsides of stakeholder capitalism.
Okay.
One of his main concerns is that it stifles innovation and entrepreneurship. If businesses are constantly trying to appease this wide range of stakeholders with often conflicting interests, it becomes much harder to take risks and make bold moves that could lead to breakthroughs.
Yeah, it's like trying to steer a ship in 100 different directions at once.
Exactly.
You're not likely to get very far.
Right. And Kiyosaki believes that this stifling of innovation ultimately hurts everyone: consumers, employees, and even the environment.
Mm.
He argues that a free market driven by individual initiative and the pursuit of profit, is ultimately the best way to create wealth and improve lives.
So he sees stakeholder capitalism as a threat to the very foundations of capitalism itself.
In a way, yeah. He believes it's a distortion of capitalism that undermines its core principles and leads to a less dynamic and a less prosperous economy.
It's definitely a thought-provoking perspective. Even if you don't fully agree with it,
Yeah, yeah.
it forces you to question assumptions and to think critically about the forces shaping our world.
Absolutely.
But Kiyosaki doesn't just critique the system; he also offers solutions.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
He believes that the best way to protect ourselves from these trends is to become financially literate and independent.
Okay.
He encourages us to educate ourselves about money, investing, and entrepreneurship so that we can create our own wealth and security regardless of what happens in the broader economy.
He's all about taking control, becoming the master of your own financial destiny.
Right, and he sees this as more than just a path to financial freedom.
Yeah.
He sees it as a path to true freedom, the freedom to live life on your own terms, to make choices that align with your values, and to build a future that you control.
That's a powerful message, and it's one that resonates deeply with people who are feeling increasingly disillusioned with the current state in the world and the economy.
Yeah, it's a call to action, a reminder that we don't have to be passive bystanders. We can take steps to empower ourselves, to build resilience, and to create a better future for ourselves and our families.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Robert Kiyosaki's world, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think it's this, knowledge is power. The more you understand about money, the more control you have over your life.
Mm.
Don't be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom, to question authority, and to think for yourself.
It's about taking ownership of your financial future and creating a life of freedom and abundance.
Exactly. And it all starts with taking that first step.
Thanks for listening. For more tips and insights on personal finance, follow us and stay tuned for more episodes.